Gold and Blue Dude here with you again, and we continue our march towards 200 subscribers before the college football season. Hopefully it still happens, because since they opened everything, it's starting to not look good again. But hopefully it still happens, and we'll still be here. Today, I'm going to preview Kansas football. So this should be interesting. I have my notes, so let's get rolling. What can you really say about Kansas football? They are the running football joke in the Big 12. And an even bigger joke with me is back in 2013, they actually beat West Virginia badly, 31-19. That's a horrific memory for me. So, could there be some magic waiting for the Jayhawks in the 2020 season? I don't know. Maybe. We got to start with Les Miles, aka the Mad Hatter. He has the accolades and a national championship, so if anybody can bring hope to Lawrence, it is Les Miles. In 2019, though, the Jayhawks actually scored less points than in 2018 before Les Miles. So, it's not a good start. Let's take a look at offense. Kansas might actually have a decent run game in 2020. They do have Puka Williams, who last year had 203 rushes for 1,061 yards and 3 touchdowns, averaging 5.2 yards a carry, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. They also have Velton Gardner coming back in 2020. In 2019, he rushed 26 times for 138 yards, so not a lot of experience, but he did average 5.3 yards per rush and 2 touchdowns. So, they have experience at the running back, but can it translate into production? Now, last year, the problem for Kansas was scoring 20 points or more. That was difficult for Kansas. This year, last year, Kansas' strong suit was the offensive line, and this year they lose 3 starters on the offensive line. So it'll be a big line. They'll have some size, but limited experience. The passing game, now that could be better this year if the O-line can protect Thomas McVitie or whoever comes out of a crowded QB competition. 3 of last year's receivers, starting receivers, returned, starting with Stephon Robinson. In 2019, he had 45 receptions for 727 yards, 8 touchdowns, and averaged 16.2 yards a reception. So he's a threat to take it to the house. But their leading receiver from 2019, Andrew Parchment, he'll be back. He had 65 receptions for 829 yards and 7 touchdowns. And like I mentioned before, they do like to throw the ball to Puka Williams out of the backfield. Now, if the O-line can mesh and just maintains the production from last year, because they were good at pass protection and decent at the running game, so if they can maintain that from last year, the offense actually could be better than it was in 2019. That's not saying much, but it's hope. Now, believe it or not, we just talked about Kansas's best side of the ball, the offense. Now it's time to talk about their worst side of the ball, defense. Now, there's no way Kansas's defense could be worse than it was last year. Is there? Well, last year they finished last in the Big 12 in pretty much every statistical category you can think of. Yikes. They lost some talent, as you call it, at the cornerback and safety position, so there's that. They do have safety Davon Ferguson. He'll be back in 2020. In 2019, he had 42 tackles by himself, 57 altogether, 1 forced fumble, and 1 pass deflection. The good thing is he has improved from year to year, so maybe he'll improve more this year. The problem is the secondary only had 4 interceptions total last year. That's not good. Another issue they have to deal with on defense is losing 3 starting defensive linemen. Now, Last year, the defensive line had a big problem with tackling. They were very, very bad, and that needs to be fixed. So maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing that 3 of those bad tacklers are gone. So Kansas does have good tackling at the linebacker position. They have Gavin Potter, who last year had 37 tackles by himself and 56 altogether, and a 1.5 sacks. Also, they have Kyron Johnson coming back. He had 36 tackles by himself, 55 altogether, and 1 sack. So, in order, the biggest issue for the defense is, number one, the defensive line, and then the cornerbacks, and then the safeties. Now, linebackers, they should be fine. So, hopefully, for Kansas' sake, their defense will be better, because last year it was atrocious. Couldn't tackle, and not very many interceptions. So we'll see how that works out for Kansas. So let's look at their schedule real quick. They get New Hampshire at home, at Baylor, Boston College at home, at Coastal Carolina, Iowa State at home, at Kansas State, Oklahoma State at home, at West Virginia, Texas at home, at Texas Tech, at Oklahoma, and TCU at home. Now, I have them going 3-9. I'm not even going to do a heaven and hell scenario, because it's not really that big of a difference. But anyways, I have them finishing 3-9 with New Hampshire at home. I'll say a win. At Baylor, loss. Versus Boston College at home, I'll give them a half. At Coastal Carolina, that's the other half. Then Iowa State at home, loss. At Kansas State, loss. Oklahoma State at home, loss. At West Virginia, loss. Texas at home, loss. Then I'll give them another half at Texas Tech, because I don't think Texas Tech is going to be good at all. At Oklahoma, loss. And then I'll give them another half for TCU at home. So I have them finishing 3-9. So here's the gist for Kansas. When you're in the basement, which they are, you'll have the toughest schedule because you don't have to play yourself. However, Kansas does have a shot to get out of the bottom spot over Texas Tech. I do think Texas Tech will be that bad this year. I think if Kansas is patient with Les Miles, he could bring Kansas back to a bowl in probably about 3 or 4 years. You just have to give him time to cycle his recruits in and develop them. So right now for Kansas, it's all about the future and giving Les Miles some time to cycle in his recruits, like I said, and develop. And he is good at developing players, so we'll see how that goes. That's all I got for you today. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will be back with some more predictions.